Sequence, selection, and loop. In this lesson, we're going to put together some of what you've already learned and what you've already been doing and see if we can make some sense out of it. In structured programming, we make use of these three structures we've already started working with. Sequence, first you do this, then you do that, finally you do this over here. With JavaScript, you start at the top of the script and you work your way down the script, and JavaScript does everything in the script one thing at a time in a sequence. With selections, we're checking to see if some condition is met. If this is true, do this, otherwise do that. And then with loops, while a condition is true, we're going to continue to do something. So with the scripts that we have next, we're going to learn a little bit about JavaScript string methods while also practicing some of these techniques you've already learned a little bit about with loops and selections and these kinds of things. And hopefully, you'll start to see the expressive power of JavaScript. So over here, I have some of the different string methods you can do. And to start with, we're going to work with the toUpperCase method here. So we can actually take a string of text, assign it to a variable, and then take that variable and do dot toUpperCase. And that's a method that will take that string and convert it into an uppercase string. Or you can convert it to lowercase. So, and if you come to this page, you'll notice I'm further down the page here, but there's all kinds of different things we can do with strings, to replace content, to find content, to do all kinds of things with strings. We can take pieces of strings out of strings. We can perform string surgery. So this page is very useful for this kind of, to explain some of the different kinds of things that we can do with strings of text. And you might be wondering, well, why would I want to do anything with a string of text? Why would I want to do this kind of stuff? But if you think about it, a web page, from the very first character of the web page to the very last character of a web page, is nothing but a string of text. If I were to right click on this page and do page source, you can see it starts with a character, and down at the bottom, way down at the bottom, it ends with a character. This is one long string of text. So from that perspective, every web page is really just a string. So if we can do things with strings, we can affect web pages. Not that we're going to do it that way very often, but you actually can do it that way, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's go forward with this and see what we're doing here. So the first thing we're going to do is create a variable called myString and assign it the following string. I'm really hungry for some, and then use the console log to print out that string. Then make a new variable called myUpperString and use the string method to capitalize all the text in the first string and then print out the capitalized version in the console. Can you do that on your own? Try to do it using this toUpperCase string method here. And you can pause the video and come back and see how I did it. When you're ready, unpause the video and let's see if you got the same thing I got. Did you get something like this? I have the same thing over here in my Visual Studio Code. I left out the spaces, but this is the same thing here. Created a variable myString, assigned some text to it. I'm console logging that out, then make a new variable called myUpperString, which is myString toUpperCase with the parentheses. This is a string method. We're going to talk about methods and functions and all that in a little bit, but for right now, understand that a method has these parentheses at the end. So, and it'll take myString and convert it into uppercase, and then I can console log that out. Assign it to this and console log that out. So that works really great. And I can come over here and see that that actually runs, and I've got both of my strings. One of them is lowercase and one of them is uppercase. Okay, so that works great. Let's see. What should we do next? Next, we'll do some more surgery on our strings. What we're going to do first here is we're going to pull out the word really. So I'm going to make a variable called really location, And I'm going to use the search method to find out where this word really in my string starts. So what this is going to return is a number of that location. So let's do that first. Var really location equals my string dot search really. And then I'm just going to console log out really location, just so you can see exactly what that's getting. Assuming I did that right. I think I did. So that's getting a 5. So what that means is that if I count from here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is character number 5. It's starting at a 5. How many characters do I want to get? I want to get 6 characters. So I'm going to use the substring function or method here, and I'm going to pass in really location, which is location 5, and I'm going to get 6 characters. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull out into this variable special word, the word really. It's going to start at 5 from my string and get 6 characters. So let's do that. Var special word equals string dot substring and I'm going to start with really location and get 6 characters. And if I console log special word, you'll see that what that's getting for me, whoops, I misspelled. Oh, it's my string, isn't it? My string with a capital S. There we go. There we go. Now I'm getting the word really. Great. So I've got that. Now I'm going to take special word and I'm going to assign it back to itself, but uppercased. So I'm going to say special word. I'm going to assign it special word dot to uppercase. So now it's going to be uppercase. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new string and I'm going to replace really with special word into the original my string here. And then I'll console log out new string. So let's do that. Var new string equals my string dot replace, and which order does it go in? I'm going to replace really with special word. Special word, like so. And then I'll console.log new string. And what I should get is I am really hungry for some. So I'm getting the capital word really there. And but this is a sequence. JavaScript is doing a sequence of things, one thing after another, after another, after another. We're just doing a sequence of things here. And JavaScript goes through the script one step at a time, and we're just learning about some string methods along the way. We've learned about a few of them already, uppercase and replace and search and substring. And there's a lot more here that you can go through and learn, but that'll get you started to begin with the various string methods that are available in JavaScript for doing string surgery. For the next step in our sequence, make an array called foods and put 4 foods in the array. Then use the string literal syntax, so we can practice that, to print out a sentence that prints to the console the variable myString, which we declared earlier, and follow that with a space, and then the first element in the foods array. See if you can do that. Pause the video and see if you can do that without looking at the answer that I have next. And when you're done, unpause the video and come back and we'll see how I did it. Did you get something like this? I have myString in here again, but you shouldn't need that because we already have that on our file. But you should have an array and then the console log with the template literal. It takes a little getting used to the template literal thing. Let's do that part together. So over here you can see I've added the array, and then here I need to add the template literal. So I'm going to do, and the way to do this, the best way to do this is to just type the variables, myString, and then I want a space and I want foods, square bracket 0. But these are variables. So I'm going to come in here and add a $sign and a curly brace and a curly brace, and then a $sign and a curly brace and a curly brace around it. And if you do it that way, you'll understand it better. If you always sort of work from the inside out or the outside in this case, we're sort of working from the inside out. But if you work that way, it'll make it easier for you to understand. And then over here, I can actually run that, and I should be getting, I'm really hungry for some cheese. So that works perfectly well. Okay, great. The next thing to do is to see if you can use a loop and loop through all of the elements in the array. I'm really hungry for some cheese, for some pie, for some lunch, for some breakfast, all of these elements. So let's see if we can do that. Go ahead and try it. See if you can write the loop for yourself. Pause the video again and see if you can write it. Try using the for loop. Try using the for of loop. See which one feels better to you. Try them both. Hopefully you got it for yourself, but I'm going to do it here just so you can see how I do this. For, and then I'm going to come in here, I'm going to say var I equals 0. So I'm going to start at 0 while I is less than foods.length. Now I could stick in here a for instead of foods.length, but this is better practice. Foods.length I++. And then I'm going to console log out basically this line here. I'm just going to stick that in there. But instead of food 0, I'm going to put an I in there because I is going to get each one of these. In fact, just so I don't get confused, I'm going to comment that line out there just so I can see that this is really working. So first time through the loop, I is 0. So it's going to print out, I'm really hungry for some space food square bracket 0 because I is 0. I gets incremented to 1. So the second time through the loop, 1 is less than 4 because remember this is going to be a 4. So it'll go through again and it'll get pie. And then the third time through the loop, it's going to get breakfast. And the fourth time through the loop, it's going to get lunch. And then I gets incremented to 4 because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. So I is going to get incremented to 4. 4 is not less than 4. So the loop will bust out. Let's see if that works. And there we go. We're getting all of it there. That's great. Now, what if you wanted to use the for of loop? I'm going to just comment that out. For var each food of foods. Something like that will work. And it doesn't have to be each food. You could do I if you wanted to. And then in here, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to basically take this and stick it here. But now, instead of foods, this foods I, this is going to be each food. I'm still going to print out my string, but now this is going to be each food. So the first time through the loop, each food is going to be cheese. And then the second time through the loop, it's going to be pie, and then it's going to be breakfast, and then it's going to be lunch. And we should get exactly the same results. Let's go test it out to be sure. And sure enough, I get the same results. Next, we'll bring selection into the mix. So now, inside our loop, we're going to check to see if the element in the loop is even or odd. And if it's even, we're going to make the word for the food that we're getting out of the array all uppercase, like this over here. This should be your results. I'm hungry for some cheese, all capital letters there. And I'm hungry for some pie, and that one's normal, and then lunch is going to be uppercase. Now you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, that's not even. But remember, we're starting with 0. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So these two really are the even ones. In JavaScript, you can determine if something is even or odd by using the modulus operator, which is the percent sign. And we can figure out when we divide something and use the percent sign, if the remainder is 0, then it's even if you divide something by 2. So we can use that to help us figure out which of these is even or odd. See if you can figure it out, and pause the video and see if you can figure that out. See if you can try it for yourself. You might have to mess around with the modulus operator. It takes a little getting used to, but try working with it a little bit and see if you can figure that out and get this result. Let's do this together. So here I am with my loop, and I got rid of the for of loop. This one's really going to work better because we already have I working as an incrementer with numbers. So we can just work with I to do this. So initially, I'm going to add this, var remainder I%2. Now, what that's going to do is each time through the loop, it's going to take I and divide it by 2 and see what the remainder is. So the first time through the loop, I take 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So that's going to be a 0, so that's even. 1 divided by 2 is not 0. 2 divided by 2 is 0, so on and so forth. So if remainder is exactly the same as 0, we could do same as, but just to be absolutely sure, exactly the same as 0. If it's exactly the same as 0, then what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to make a variable, var food upper, and assign it foods square bracket I, so that's going to get that first food, whatever I is there, and do 2 uppercase. And then I'm going to print out basically this. But instead of foods, I down there, I can print out this one here. I think that'll work. Else, we'll just do this. Save that. Did I do it right? Let's see. Refresh my page here, and look at that. It's working. So that's great. Did you get something like that? That's great. One last thing I want to talk about, or really the next thing I want to talk about, is refactoring code. Often we will write code the first time and then look at it later and realize, you know what, that could be a little bit simpler. I could simplify that a little bit. And refactoring code is the process of taking your code and not changing its functionality at all, but making it simpler, finding ways of making it shorter, making it more concise, making it more readable. So, and sometimes those things don't all go together. Sometimes making it more concise makes it less readable. But really, you're looking for the right balance of conciseness and readability when you're refactoring your code. So we could take that same piece that we wrote and refactor it a little bit so that we could get rid of that extra variable here. So let's do that really quickly over here. I don't really need to do this here. I could actually do this right in here. And then I can get rid of this variable, remainder. I don't really need that there. And that kind of simplifies things a little bit. And then here also, food upper. I could just take this foods to uppercase, foods I to uppercase, and stick it in here. And then I can get rid of this line too. And you can see how that sort of shortens things up a little bit. Often when we're writing things for the first time, we'll make it more complicated than it needs to be. And frequently students will tell me when they're working through my examples, they'll say, oh, wow, I tried it and I ended up with way more code than you did. Yours was much more concise. Well, that's because I've refactored mine down quite a bit. Nobody writes it perfectly the first time. So don't feel bad about that. Always just keep working at it. Look for ways of taking your code and saying, you know what, this could be a little bit simpler. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to just make sure that it still runs exactly the same way. Make sure I did that right. And I did, so that's fine. Another thing you can do that's really helpful is make comments. If you're not really sure that you're going to, you can refactor something down, but then it can become less readable, and it can be helpful to put comments in there to help you make sure that you are, when you come back to it later, that you know what you did and that it'll make sense to your future self. So, you can go ahead and come in here and add comments. Now I'll put it up here. Checking to see if the incrementer is even. Something like that will be helpful later, perhaps, and you could add more comments in here. So as you're refactoring, be sure to do that as well. Once you've added your comments and refactored your code, you've done a great job at working with sequence, selection, and loops. And we're going to get more practice with those, as pretty much every script that we write will have some combination of them as we go along. Okay, great. See you in the next lesson. JavaScript Basic Challenges 1 through 9. This course includes a number of challenges, and these challenges will really help you become better at writing JavaScript and becoming a JavaScript programmer. So I strongly encourage you to take the time you need to get good at working through these challenges and to really be able to do the challenges and get the correct results. The way the challenges work is I'll give you a challenge. This first one is fairly simple. Write a script that prints out your name on one line, your first name on one line, your last name on the next line. Very basic challenge. But what you should do is set up your file. So I have a file set up here. And then you'll come in here, and it's very normal to be, okay, what do I do first? I don't even know what the first thing is to do. And that's fine. You can always come over and look at the answer for the challenge. We'll be on the next slide. And you can look at that and go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We did that in the other lesson. I know how to do that. So then come back and actually write that var first name equals Bill. And then, I've forgotten what to do next. And that's normal. This is typical. So go and look again if you have to. Look again and see what you need to do next. And then go back and actually type it without looking at the slide. What this will do a few things to really help you get good at JavaScript. First, what it'll do is it'll help you with the syntax of the language. Remember this slide? Remember, we need to get over this first hump of the camel. We need to get over that first hump, which is learning the syntax of the language. And the way to learn the syntax of the language is to type it. And when you're working on this, even if you're looking at the answer and then having to come in here and just remember it for a few seconds, that will help you learn the syntax and get better at it over time. And I promise it will help. Over time, you'll really start to be able to do these without having to look at the slides if you keep working at it. So look at the answers if you have to. They're here. And then type it without looking at the answer. The second thing that it'll do for you is these challenges build on each other. So the second challenge is a little bit of a baby step beyond the first challenge. And I've designed these challenges such that they build up in small baby steps like this, so that over time, you're taking an idea and kind of expanding it into a larger, more complex script as you go along. And that will help you with the second hump on the camel, learning how to solve problems with JavaScript. You get good at learning how to solve problems, first by solving very small problems and making baby steps. And these challenges will help you do that. So I recommend you do these challenges to the point where you can do them without looking at the answers, because that will really help you with the syntax. And meanwhile, you're building up some skill for how to take a small thing and then build on it. Now, there's nothing magical about these challenges. I also recommend you come up with your own challenges. Try things out. See if you can make a small thing work. If you can make that small thing work, then build on it and see what other ideas you have and see if you can build on those. That is a great way to learn JavaScript. And it's fun. It's fun to see if you can do that kind of thing. So by doing these challenges, by working through these examples, and by getting really good at them, you will build your skills with JavaScript. If you don't have to. You can continue to watch the videos and do the quizzes in the videos, and you'll learn about JavaScript. But in order to actually become a JavaScript programmer, you have to write JavaScript. You have to take the time to really sit down and write it. Even if you're coming to JavaScript from another language like C++ or Java or Python or some other language, and you might be thinking, oh, yeah, I know what loops are and I know what if statements are and those kinds of things. I really recommend you sit down and write JavaScript because it's a little bit different and it takes practice. Okay, great. So keep working on these and get really good at the challenges, and you will be, I promise, you'll be on the road to becoming a good JavaScript developer.